With a loud grunt, Jungkook fell on the bed beside Van. She panted heavily, staring at the off-white ceiling. Thousands of thoughts clouded her mind, shutting off her consciousness to her surroundings. She lay there, stiff like a dead body. No movement, only thoughts and never-ending thoughts. Jungkook's hand in her hair brought her back to reality. Her emotionless eyes met his soft gaze, and she felt a pang of guilt surging in her heart. She always loved getting loved by him, but today was different. She didn't deserve it. She didn't deserve his affection. She didn't deserve his soft touches. She didn't deserve his soothing embrace. She doesn't deserve him. Where are you lost, love? I have been noticing you for a week now. Since the day I returned from the business trip, you have been behaving very oddly. Is something bothering you? He spoke ever so softly, adjusting the duvet around her naked body. His soft voice, his care, his love used to give her butterflies in her tummy, but now it did nothing except drowning her in the ocean of guilt. She smiled, or tried to smile, and shook her head slightly. She turned her eyes away from his, unable to hold the eye contact longer. She turned on her side, facing the wall ahead. On the other hand, Jacob frowned, sensing her odd behavior. He had obtained doubts on his mind, but he decided to not ruin the precious moment he shared with her a while ago. Shifting towards her, he wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her closer until her back touched his chest. A sigh escaped her lips when he pressed small kisses on her head. Are you tired? She just nodded as words refused to come out of her mouth. Have I tired you out? She paused, hearing him. If it were any other time, she would blush and hit his shoulder playfully, but today she just gave a robotic nod, staring into oblivion. I apologize for making you tired. He spoke with a playful chuckle. His tone insinuated that he wasn't sorry, but rather proud. Tightening his grip around her waist, he snuggled in the crook of her neck and hummed in ecstasy. You smell so good, he mumbled against her neck, pressing butterfly kisses from her collarbone all the way to her earlobe. But she remained unmoved in her spot, as though his touch had no effect on her. After a few minutes of kissing and caressing, he buried his face in the arch of her neck and slept in no time. But she was wide awake, reflecting on the course of her actions that made her think that she didn't deserve him. Why were these type of thoughts roaming in her head? Because she committed a mistake, precisely a sin. She betrayed him. She broke his trust. She insulted the love he carried in his heart for her. She cheated on him. She sighed and turned back to look at Jungkook, who was sleeping peacefully. She didn't sleep a wink the whole night. Like every other night, she mused over her deeds in the darkness. Upon pondering over her inner conflicts for hours or days, she decided that she would tell Jungkook about it. He needed to know. He shouldn't be weaving the castle of a happy family when she had successfully ruined the artwork they both had built together. I am sorry. I don't know how, but I'm really sorry, she whispered, resting her forehead against his. A lone tear rolled down from the corner of her eyes and mingled with the grey sheet beneath. Her trembling hands reached out to remove his bangs off his forehead before her dry, quivering lips lingered there a moment longer than usual. Parting away, she stared at his face. His soft skin glowed under the soft hue of the sunlight. Messy hair, dry, chapped lips with an adorable pout adorning them. He looked handsomely cute. The mole under his lips looked seductive and tempting. She traced her fingers over the mole, but quickly retrieved them back when he squinted his eyes and squirmed on his spot. She slowly untangled herself from his grip, careful to not wake him up, and got off the bed. Putting on a shirt which was lying on the floor beside the bed, she glanced at him. With the determination to tell him the truth, she trudged towards the bathroom to start her day with her usual morning routine. While she was preparing breakfast, she heard Jungkook's hushed footsteps approaching the kitchen. Lifting her gaze, she noticed him walking towards her, rubbing his drowsy eyes. He was still shirtless. A pair of grey sweatpants hung loosely around his washboard waist. She was confused as to why he was not ready for work, but then she remembered he wouldn't be working as it was Sunday. She stiffened when he threw himself in her arms. Her back arched when he leaned his whole body weight on her fragile body. She balanced herself somehow. Her hands flew to his shoulders and reflex. Good morning, he mumbled groggily. His morning voice, deep and husky, sent tingles down her spine. Morning, she whispered, gently pushing him away. A frown marred his face at her dry reply. He had been noticing it for a few days. He thought she might be tired, but now her behavior was getting over his head. What is it, Ryan? If there is some issue, then tell me. I can't read minds. His tone came out as a mix of concern and frustration. She swallowed the lump that formed in her throat, getting with her fingers in nervousness. Perhaps it was the time. She should tell him the weight of guilt was getting too heavy to be carried. The truth needed to be revealed. She could no longer keep behaving oblivious. Jungkook, I need to tell you something. She gulped and looked at him, but quickly averted her gaze as she was too ashamed to meet his eyes. Finally, tell me what is going on in your head, love. He held her shoulders, giving an assuring squeeze. Jungkook, last week when you. She went silent when Jungkook's phone went off. He took out his phone and frowned, seeing his assistant's name displaying on the screen. Usually, no one disturbs him on weekends until it is an emergency. Thus, without a second thought, he took the call. Yes, Ryan was, as he heard the person on the other side, and his expression changed into a worried one. Okay, I'm coming. Disconnected the call and turned to Ryan. I need to leave immediately. He stepped closer and pressed a tender kiss on her forehead. I am sorry, love. I know you don't like it when I go to office on weekends, but it's an emergency. I'll be back soon. Her heart sank further hearing him. He was so nice, so soft with her, and what she did. I'll go and get ready. He ruffled her hair and walked away from there, leaving her grappling with her thoughts. How long will I have to bear this? This is getting unbearable now, she whispered. Her eyes burned with the heat of tears, but she blinked them back. I'll tell him the truth. I have to tell him. Jungkook came back home past midnight, too tired from the day's events. He noticed his wife sitting on the couch reading a book. He shook his head, clearly not surprised by seeing her awake. Despite him telling her 15 times to not wait for him, she didn't listen. Love, he called out softly, as if raising his voice even one more decibel would be counted as a sin. She flashed back to reality, as though she was physically present there, but her mind wandered in an unknown world. She sprang to her feet, closing the book and kept it aside. His lips twisted into a faint smile. He stepped closer and pressed a kiss on her forehead, a habit he adopted over the period he had spent with her. I know you will not listen, still I'll say it. Please stop waiting for me and sleep at your usual time. He cupped her cheek, his thumb stroking her cheekbone. Jungkook, I need to tell you something, she uttered with great difficulty. He nodded, meeting her gaze. Her gaze raked over his face, observing his worn out expression. His red eyes insinuated the amount of time he spent working on a laptop. As much as she wanted to tell him the truth, she decided otherwise. Dinner, have you had your dinner? She sighed when he bit his lower lip and shook his head. I am reheating the dinner. Come soon. She retired towards the kitchen, while Jungkook smiled at his caring wife and made his way to their bedroom to change into comfortable clothes. Wyan returned to her bedroom after cleaning the kitchen. She was resolute to talk to him, but all of her courage drained off when she noticed him sleeping. He was cocooned under the blanket, having the much needed sleep. She sighed tiredly and walked up to her vanity to do her night routine. Applying moisturizer and night cream, she opened the drawer to take out her lip gloss. However, her movements halted when she noticed some papers in there. She stared at the papers for a moment and took them out with her trembling hands. Clutching those papers in her hands, she glanced at Jungkook, her heart beating so fast that she could hear it thumping in her ears. I can no longer keep up with this act. I have to tell him, she whispered to herself and put those papers back in their place. She ambled towards his side and knelt before him. Her hand reached out to kiss his head as she leaned forward and placed a lingering kiss on his forehead. She tried to be meticulous with her movements, but Jungkook woke up. He glanced at her with her half-open eyes. Love, he murmured lazily, lifting his head slightly to look at her. I am so sorry. I didn't mean to wake you up. He smiled and shifted a little, making space for her. Lifting the duvet, he patted the space beside him. Come on, time to sleep. A shut out smile curved on her lips. She got on the bed beside him and he instantly pulled her in his arms. Now, this feels nice and comforting, he murmured, placing a kiss atop her head. She exhaled deeply and nestled her face in his chiseled chest. Just for today, I'll tell him tomorrow, she thought before drifting into a peaceful sleep after a restless week. Good morning, love, he chirped happily, pressing a kiss on her forehead. She forced out a smile in response. What did you prepare for breakfast? I'm so hungry. He served himself and settled on one of the chairs near kitchen island. Bring yours too, because I'm too hungry to serve you food. He grumbled with his mouth full of food, prompting a chuckle from Ryan. With his forehead wrinkled in countless frowns and a cute pout on his lips, as he chewed on his food, he looked cute. Ryan served herself and settled beside him, having breakfast along with him. After finishing the breakfast, Jungkook was all set to leave for his office, but Ryan stopped him. Jungkook, I need to tell you something. Jungkook looked at her with confusion, but soon his confusion faded away when he realized that their conversation left incomplete the previous day. Alright, what is it, love? What is troubling you? His hands lifted to her shoulders, kissing and squeezing in a comforting manner. Jungkook, you remember Daniel came back last week? He nodded, attentively listening to her. Daniel was Vian's best friend of 12 years, even before she met Jungkook. He was her savior, her safe place. He was with her through thick and thin. When her parents died in a plane crash, he was there for her, holding her tight during her breakdowns. Out and out, he was no less than a family to her. 2 years ago, when Vian and Jungkook got married, Daniel suddenly announced that he was going overseas. Vian was disheartened by the news, but she couldn't stop him from making decisions in his life. However, last week, Vian got a call from him that he was back in the country. Vian's happiness had no bounds, and she instantly made plans to meet him. She informed Jungkook about it as he was not home. Jungkook had no issue with Daniel. In fact, they got along pretty well. Jungkook was grateful to him for staying with his love even through the worst. That day we went to a club and you drank out of your range. Isn't it? It's okay, love. You don't have to stress out over petty things. I would have done the same if I were meeting my best friend after whole 2 years of no contact. He stated with an assuring smile while she shook her head. No, Jungkook. His grip on her shoulders loosened, his smile slowly disappeared, and his expression turned blank. It appeared as though a pall of numbness covered his entire being, concealing his actual emotions underneath. His thoughts hard to interpret, yet easy to make assumptions of. A lone tear slipped from the corner of her eyes. When his hands slumped to his sides as though someone had sucked the life out of him, leaving him nothing more than a breathing dead body. In that fleeting moment, everything felt suffocating. Breathing, crying, moving, or even the pumping of the heart felt like a heavy task. What? His whisper felt like a mock in the heavy silence. Vine closed her eyes, letting her tears fall freely. She clenched her feet, a futile attempt to gain her composure. Her body felt too heavy for her feet to stand on. Her toes curled in as she focused on her breathing. I got drunk and I woke up naked beside him. Jungkook let out a shaky breath as he took a step back from her, then another step back, and another, before he turned around and stormed away from there. As soon as he left, Vine slumped down on the floor and cried. Her sobs became loud and louder with time. It wasn't her regret coming out of her eyes. It was Jungkook's pain that he swallowed quietly without saying a word. His outburst wouldn't have hurted her as much as his silence did. I'm sorry, she cried out, leaning her head against the wooden door of cabinets. I'm sorry, Jungkook, she whispered amidst her cries. Her hand clutched her chest, the pain intensifying with each passing second. Only if there were a medicine for emotional pain, no person would have spent the nights crying for hours. Vine packed her stuff in her luggage. Her tears never stopped flowing. She was guilt-ridden after what she did. Jungkook didn't deserve to live with a person like her. He deserved better. Much, much better than her. Zipping her luggage, she put it aside and walked up to a van. She took out the divorce papers, which she had gotten prepared in haste. After being aware of her deeds, she couldn't keep acting like nothing happened. Jungkook didn't deserve to be kept in darkness. He shouldn't be sharing the burden of her wrongdoings. Taking out a pen from the same drawer, she first hesitated but signed them thinking about Jungkook. She sniffed, staring at those papers and kept them on the bedside table. She looked around the room, which contained countless memories of their pure bond. Everything felt good, yet a hard slap on her face. That's what he got for loving you so selflessly? Her inner self mocked. She sobbed and shook her head. No. She shook her head, wishing that the voices in her head stopped, or she wouldn't be able to survive any longer. Then why are you standing here? You want to hurt him more? Maya shook her head, palming her ears to stop hearing those voices. They were horrible. Leave. Leave from his life. Never show him your face. Leave, you cheat. Vine instantly ran to her luggage. Her inner voice was controlling her, but she was letting her sentiments control her actions. When she was about to leave, something clicked in her mind. She looked at her left hand. There shone her wedding ring, designed by Jungkook himself. She adored it very much. It was her most precious possession, but sadly, she wasn't the rightful owner of it now. The ring symbolized the tattered promises she failed to fulfill. She reluctantly removed it, though her heart bled at the separation. Her finger felt empty, just like her heart. She placed the ring on top of the divorce papers, the last sign of their love separated from her. She seemed like a starved child, looking at the ring as a child looked at the food. This isn't yours anymore, Ryan. This belongs to someone as loving and loyal as him. You are not worthy of it anymore. She whispered, grabbed her luggage, and went away from there without looking back. Jungkook came back in the late hours of the night. He had spent his entire day in a park, pondering over the newfound heart-wrenching information. Even after hearing everything from her, he couldn't believe it. He believed she couldn't do anything like this. Perhaps there was something more to the story. Perhaps what he heard wasn't true. Perhaps it was nothing but a nightmare, and he was still waiting for her to wake him up. As soon as he stepped inside the living room, his eyes searched for his wife. Though he always told her to not wait for him, but upon seeing the couch empty, deprived of his wife, he felt a pang in his heart. Love, he called out, unable to control his emotions. Upon not receiving any response, he rushed upstairs. Love, I looked around, desperately searching for her. I needed to talk to her. I believed she couldn't do this. She couldn't cheat on me. It must be a misunderstanding. We could talk it out. Love, are you inside? I knocked on the bathroom door, but it creaked open, insinuating her absence. I felt my heart going frantic. A restless feeling crept into my being, making it difficult for me to stay at one place for longer than a moment. She must be outside, I reassured my restless heart. She had to be outside. I marched outside, but my steps halted at the doorstep when I noticed something. Some papers on the bedside table, and a ring on top of it. I got a huge lump when I recognized that it was Wyan's ring. My feet refused to move as thousands of negative thoughts were in my mind. Somewhere in the corner of my heart, I knew what those papers were about, but I grappled with my heart, denying the absolute truth. With weak, wobbly steps, I trudged towards the table and grabbed her ring. It was a beautiful piece of jewel because I poured my heart while designing it. My hands twisted around the ring, feeling its metallic texture against my palm as my gaze shifted to the papers, which were flipping due to the air coming through the window. Their flapping sound mingled with my heavy breath, creating a somber tone, as though providing a background music for a sad scene in a movie. I grabbed those papers, my palm clutching them tightly, making creases on them. Divorce. I mumbled and laughed. I laughed so loud that I felt my voice echoing in the empty, lifeless house. So, she want to leave me now. I chuckled dryly, and I didn't know I was crying until I felt dampness on my cheeks. 5 years of togetherness meant nothing that she decided to divorce me, and how long she has kept these papers hidden from me. I wondered if she was the same one I knew or an entirely different person because at that moment I couldn't even recognize myself. You can't slip away so easily, Ryan. I won't let you escape without an explanation. I need answers. I harshly wiped my tears and rushed out of the room. A day, and my entire life changed. I was happy when I woke up, and now I was nothing less than a thirsty pilgrim looking for a source of water in a scorching desert. After an hour-long drive, I halted the car in front of our apartment. I unbuckled my seatbelt. As I was about to step down from the car, I ceased when I witnessed a sight before my eyes. There they were, Wayne and Daniel, glued to each other, hugging ever so tightly as though their life depended on each other. I looked at her, whom I called my love. She was crying in other man's arms. Was that it? Was that I got for loving her selflessly? Did she really reward me with a betrayal for showering her with love over these years? If she loved Daniel, she could have married him. He was in her life before me, right? Why including me and breaking my heart? Was that all? Was this how we were meant to end? I settled back on my seat and buckled my seat belt. My jaw clenched so tight that I could feel the cramps in my jaw muscles. My eyes burned with tears, and I was sure that these wouldn't be looking no less than a burning lava. I was a fool. I was a fool all along. I trusted her. I loved her, but not anymore. If this was how our story is supposed to end, let it end this way. Neither I had energy to fight for it, nor the desire to crumble my self respect and beg her to come back when she left willingly. I was empty inside. There was nothing left in me. No love, no affection, no happiness. If there was something, then it was anger. Raw and disastrous anger. I hate you, Ryan. I hate you more than I have ever loved you.